all that great hope, isn't it? And we sing that song, but we don't realize we're singing about the day we... Oh, you guys are good. I will stop right there. So death, it's inevitable, but it's misunderstood, isn't it? Hebrews says it's appointed for man to die once, right? And it's going to come upon all of us. And after that comes the judgment. We know these scriptures are the time to be born and a time to die. I think there was this song saying after that, right? A time for everything. Who sang that? That's right. Turn, turn, turn. That's right. Solomon never got any credit for that because he should have got some royalty for penning it. But the living know when they'll die. I mean, know that they will die, not when. We never know when, but we know that we will. And of course, Psalms, man can live and not see death? That's a rhetorical question. The answer is nobody. I think death is sort of like going on your first roller coaster ride. I mean, a really big, scary one. Because when you go on it and you see the people screaming and they're just, you go, I don't think I want to get on that. But you want to get on it. Why do you want to get on it? For the thrill. So you go up and it's called chuck, 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 and you don't know, and it's going to drop over the edge. Like, why am I doing this? You think this is crazy. I know why. I'm stupid for doing this. And when you go down, what does everyone do? Scream. Ah! They just round the coaster and they're about ready to lose everything, and they get off. Let's do it again. And I think that's what death is like. It's the fear of the unknown. I've never been on this ride before. But once you get through it, you're like, wow, I don't want to do it again, but I'm glad I did it because it's a thrilling thing. It puts me in the presence of God. So it's because of ignorance. That's why we fear it, because we don't really know what is to be expected. And that's understandable, right? Because no one's died here, have they? And often it's because people think death is the end of everything. The Christians, we should mentally know that death is the beginning, but emotionally we feel like it's the end, don't we? So we have to kind of bring those two understandings together. So even Christians they fear death because they don't really understand it's the beginning of our real life with Jesus Christ. But if we get the right information, that fear will subside and it will be replaced with anticipation. And that's what we want to create. So we're going to look at some info about what happens physically when you die, and then what happens spiritually when you die, and then we'll wrap it up. And then hopefully we can follow up with a lesson about some other things about it. And I just hope this is helpful to all of you, because I'm not a prophet. I'm not the son of a prophet, but there's a good chance someone's going to pass away in this congregation in 2026, right? And so it's appropriate that we all talk about it, isn't it? And so we can deal with it appropriately. So we look at it, first of all, what happens physically when we die? And we're going to look at some actual physical things that happen for you to die. Now, this is short of a car crash where you die instantly or something tragic and traumatic. I'm talking about a normal death due to disease or old age or something, right? You with me? And it's not always a pleasant thing. No one ever said it was. But it's something that's happened millions and millions of times. And many of you have seen your parents and you've held their hands, or a loved one when they've passed, right? So these are things that we've experienced. Some of us have learned them from hospice. They're a great organization because they teach you and coach you what to expect when death comes near. And that's so helpful because it takes away the fear, like, what's happening? Well, they said this was going to happen. And so when you learn that, it helps coach you through the traumatic experience, we call death. But as the shadow of death does approach, the human body's going to undergo a profound and yet gradual transformation that... and it signals the end of life's journey. And so when we look at it, one of the first things, when we look at the hours preceding death, oxygen to the brain starts to decrease. We call this cerebral hypoxia. And the reason I say this is because we're talking about the hours before you die. And the loved one will sometimes have confusion. There'll be restlessness or even some agitation. There can be drowsiness and in and out of consciousness and even hallucinations, which is interesting because as the oxygen, it doesn't get to the brain. And the mind is grappling with this, and there's a diminishing clarity and responsiveness to external stimulation. But it's natural. And then we have cardiovascular changes. That's where the heart, blood doesn't work like it used to. Blood pressure starts to drop. The pulse may become weak, sometimes even rapid or even irregular. And when that happens, the extremities start to grow cold. And this is like a survival of the body, that it's going to try to keep the organs alive, the heart, the lungs. And so it stops transmitting blood to extremities. So they are the first things to get cold. And you maybe have felt the cold limbs of your loved one. But that's a normal thing that happens. And as the pulse weakens, the skin starts to take on this pallid hue. It's just a pale, colorless hue. And then you know death is approaching. These physical signs, they remind us of the frailty of our life, you know. We're not here to live forever. And they're feared when you see it if you don't understand it, but it's really just a prelude to a transition to real great glory. And we're going to sing that song, "Oh, will that be glory," when we actually leave this body. When the breathing then starts to change, totally oxygen becomes the organs start shutting down because they're not getting the oxygen they need. The kidneys stop producing urine. Carbon dioxide rises in the blood, and the blood actually becomes acidic and starts, eating on itself. And this is metabolic failure. The organs start to just collapse. Then we approach the moment actually we do die. And if you hook up to a monitor, you're always watching it, right? You watch the heartbeat and the oxygen level, and we call flatline right when. And it's not pleasant, but it happens, doesn't it? So the moment we die, the heart stops pumping. We call it cardiac arrest, right? Blood flow to the brain stops entirely. And with about 10 seconds of no blood flow, the brain loses consciousness. Within 20 to 40 seconds, all electrical activity in the brain ceases and rapidly declines till it stops entirely. With 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen, it's irreversible brain damage. And then after about 8 to 10 minutes, the brain death occurs. You're clinically dead when you can't have no pulse, you have no brain activity, and there's no blood pressure, there's no breathing. And that's when the actual death approaches, okay? And it's the moment. It's the veil between the physical realm and the spiritual realm, this moment of death. It's a curtain, if you would, and that curtain is opened, and it marks a separation rather than an end. And it's actually a transformation from one realm to the next. And as the body ceases all its functions, and as the breath departs, and sometimes you see the last breath in the person, and it's gone. As the breath of life just escapes them. And then there's at this final side, just this stillness and peace that takes over the body. And it's now just literally an empty tabernacle of clay, of dust, right? And the spirit has been unshackled and for the first time released from the body. Now that happens all physically, but spiritually what's taking place is the most exciting. That's what makes the ride great. Physically it's not fun, but spiritually it's thrilling. Now, at that moment of death, when you watch it, it's very troubling, isn't it? I remember when my mom passed, when all of us were gathered around, and with the reduced breathing, sometimes they'll stop breathing, and that's normal, and you think, that's it. And about a minute into that, all of a sudden you go, it's just like our mom to play with us, you know. We thought she was dead, and we would joke about it in a sad way, but that happened several times before she finally, and when it was her last breath, you knew it was. Huh?
They blow out hard.
Yeah, yes. And the worst thing is in their labored breathing, sometimes you get fluid built up in the throat, and they have what's called a death rattle. And when the hospice nurse told us to expect that, that was my father. I go, yeah, right. But when you hear it, it's the most eerie. Everyone's heard that. It's troubling, isn't it? But it's normal. It's normal, and when you are aware of it, you can get through it. Because, oh yeah, they told me this would happen. But it doesn't make it any more pleasant. So death in itself is not pleasant. And it's a result of sin in the world, right? Because sin is spread to all men, because all have sinned, and all are going to die in the likeness of Adam. It wasn't God's intention, but he let Jesus come to die so we could have life after our death or through our death. Yes, Pam?
I used to work at night.
Yes.
When people have a death rattle at night, you know, from dying, you can be in a hallway and it be dead quiet, and you will know from the minute that you approach that door, when that rattle stops,
Yeah.
you knew that person had already passed.
Yeah.
Before you could even, before you could even get in there and try to do anything.
Yeah. And it's something.
And
It's something. It's amazing the person, they say the last thing to go in is their hearing, and they're conscious of what's being said around them. And often a person will hang on. I know you've heard this, and we've experienced it personally, that they need sometimes permission to go. It's okay. The kids will be fine. I'll be fine. We'll take care of everyone. It's giving them permission. It's okay to die, because they sometimes fight because they don't want to leave and abandon people. And once you do that, they sometimes they hang on and fight because they don't want to die in front of you. When you leave the room, they actually will. It's amazing what's going on mentally we just aren't aware of, but we hear those stories and experience those accounts. So it's not pleasant, but for a Christian, it's the most blessed time in our life. And that's what we want to look at, what happens spiritually when we die. Because the body's now going to return to dust. We know that, right? For dust you are, and to dust you will return. That's a promise. Our body's made out of elements from the ground. God made dust, a man out of the dust of the earth, and breathed into him the breath of life. And even Eve was made from a rib, which is from dust originally, right? And when we die, our body is just going to return to the earth as it was. And there's nothing we can do about that. Yes?
I have a question.
Sure.
What are the teachings about being cremated?
That's a really good question. Let me show 2 verses, I'll answer it, okay? Because I want you to, thanks for taking care of me. I appreciate that. Yeah. Psalm says this, you take away their breath, and what? They die and return to dust. And one more, well, we'll stop right there. So to answer your question, when you cremate someone, what happens to their body? It turns to what? So you end up in the same place, whether it happens over a year, because before they pump the body full of preservatives, it actually is, the body returned to dust naturally, the bones and everything, within a matter of several years, right? So cremation or just burial, it ends up the same place. God can rejuvenate both of them. And so you think some people that were burned at the stake for their faith, what did they turn to? Dust. That's a cremation. So they still have hope, right? Because we're talking about a resurrected body. So that's a great question, but it's a personal choice. Because the Bible says nothing about it, yes or no. But we think in a practical way, it happened all the time. If you were eaten by a lion in the arena for your faith, you come out the other end of the lion. I'm trying to be nice, right? Or a shark. And God can turn that into a new living body. So it's a choice. Yes?
That's exactly what I was going to say, is if you get eaten by a bear or something, it isn't like you lose out on your
Right.
glorified body.
Right. Yeah, God's able to do that. So it's a preference, and every culture will be different that way, too. And our culture has rapidly changed. We didn't used to do cremation, but now we do. Right. So is this the end? Well, no, it's not. It's not the end. And that's what we have to see. Jesus, when he approached Mary and Martha, remember he got there late on purpose because he knew he was going to die. His good friend, everyone's weeping, even Jesus wept. That's hard. It's hard. And he was sick with something, and he went through the same things we just talked about, metabolically and his body shutting down. And he had that last breath. And so Mary goes, if you would have been here, you could have saved him. This wouldn't have happened. And so he comes back and says, Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even if he or she dies. And everyone lives and believes in me will never die. That means eternally. He said, do you believe this? And as Christians, we say, yeah, I believe this. Well, do we? Because it gives us joy. When we understand this is our hope. It's built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness, right? So let's look at what happens spiritually when we die. It's not the end of everything. It's really the beginning. But first of all, death is going to be defined spiritually as a separation. Now, physical death by a doctor will have a different definition. There's clinical death. But spiritually, death is the separation of the body from the spirit actually from the body. They're separated from each other. All right? And that's where we have to understand. Now, where do we get that from? James chapter 2 would be the first place. When we look at it, he's talking about faith without works is dead. When they're separated, there's no action to back up your faith, your trust in God. And he says, it's just like when someone dies, when the spirit leaves it, the body, it's separated. He says, that's death. Oh, we learned how they viewed death by that illustration. So just as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead. So physical death is when your spirit is released from the body and goes back to its maker, which gave it. And so this presumes that we all understand that you are not a body. We are spirits living in a physical vehicle called a human body, right? That's not the real us. Yeah, it's me, but it's not really me, because the real me is not my spirit, because who's talking when I say my? See what I'm saying? I am a spirit living in a body. Now, there's a triad of the body. Paul talks about may you be sanctified in body, spirit, and soul. The soulish part is probably our animal life. Animals have souls in that way, a soulish animal type of life. And when they die, that soulish, the breath of life is extinguished. So it's viewed this way when it comes to this triad of who we are. I'm a spirit tied to this body, and it's my soul or my biological life that keeps me tied to it. When God breathed into me the breath of life. When that soul dies or is extinguished, the soulless biological part of me, my spirit is no longer shackled to my body, and it's allowed to be released and freed. That's the best way I can explain it. Does that make any sense? You are a spirit living in a physical body. Some are male bodies, some are female bodies, some are young, some are old, some are black or white. It doesn't matter, but we're just spiritual beings living in physical vehicles. And death is the separation. It's not the end of you. It's just when you are separated from your physical body. That's all it is. Bob.
I understand what you're talking about, but my question is, everybody that has gone through surgery is given anesthesia,
Right.
which you go to sleep.
Right.
Okay? But during that time period,
Right.
Okay? Now, during this separation of the spirit,
Are you dead when you are under anesthesia, though?
no,
You're asleep.
you're
So,
asleep.
do you think consciously when you're sleeping? And not unless you're dreaming, right? But real deep sleep, you're not even aware you're asleep, right? It's the same thing. Anesthesia is just like being asleep.
So
Death is different.
you're not thinking or
Yeah, when you're asleep, you're not thinking. You're not,
Well, there's brain activity. They could put electric.
yeah, their brain's still working.
Yes, but when you're dead, there's no activity.
Yeah, because anesthesia, there's still brain activity. It's running the heart and all that. But when you're dead, there's no brain activity at all.
right. But once you separate from the body that is containing that brain function,
Oh, wait, maybe I understand your question. It's the brain that's not doing the thinking, it's your spirit.
okay, that's what I wanted to find out.
And there's a connection between the two, and I can't go any deeper than that because I don't understand it. But you can still think outside of the body. You understand what I'm saying? Because we think the brain is what causes us to think and have awareness or consciousness. No, there's a consciousness when you're a spirit being outside of your body. You're still conscious. It's a really good question that way. Does it all make sense? There's a consciousness. And how are you going to have consciousness without a brain and a body? I don't know. But it's true, and we'll have illustrations of that in a second.
I think sometimes we are so attached to the physical thing that we do not even think in the
Right.
spiritual thing that how those things work.
Right,
And because we are so attached to the physical thing.
right.
And again, here is like we attach thinking to the brain because
Yeah.
we are so
Yeah.
attached to the physical thing.
'Cause-
And the spiritual realm,
We've never been there.
yeah,
Yeah, so we don't know what it's like.
yeah, when you read some scriptures, you figure out that angels were thinking,
Yeah.
and all the spiritual beings were thinking.
Well, God is thinking, and He is a spirit. He has no body.
Yeah.
Jesus said spirits have no flesh and blood.
So again, it's like
Yeah,
we are so
yeah.
attached to physical
Right.
things that we just do not even,
Right.
I don't know.
Well, it's so foreign to us, and it's natural what He's saying. All we've had is a life lived in the body. That's all we know. So we can't even imagine something else. And that's why I'm saying death is where you start to live life the way it's supposed to be lived. This is just a temporary in school. Yes.
Well, that really illustrates that the body is a gift, but it's not your friend. Because the flesh wants what it wants. Because it's not going to heaven with you. It's not going to hell with you. It's not going to experience any of that stuff.
And we do battle the body, don't we? It's not always our friend, is it? Yeah. No, that's a good point. So notice that. The body without the spirit is dead. Is the spirit dead? No, the body is dead. It returns to the dust. The spirit's still alive. It's conscious. Yes.
Oh, that just raises a question in my mind where, when in creation, where God says, or Jesus, let us make man in our image.
Yes.
So why do we think that God does not have any kind of physical body?
Good question. She asked, why do we think that God has no body? Well, because John chapter 4, verse 23, 24 says, Jesus said, you must worship God in spirit and truth because God is a spirit. Then Jesus in Luke chapter 24 and verse 36, he appears to them in a fleshly body in the resurrection, and they are scared because they think they're seeing a spirit. It says that, a spirit. Because you're dead, so this must be some manifestation of you spiritually. And Jesus said, touch me, feel me, because a spirit does not have flesh and blood as you see that I have. So we know then spirits don't have bodies. God is a spirit, so God can't have a what? Body. We were made in His image, not in flesh and blood, but we're spiritual beings. Unlike the animals, they have just bodies. They don't have spirits.
So we will have a spiritual body.
Well, but we are spirits like God living in a physical body. Your dog does not have a spirit. He doesn't go to heaven, okay? Sorry. When he's dead, there's no consciousness. I'm sorry to break the news, okay? Does that answer your question, no?
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, Mary.
Build on backwards.
What? Yeah. Oh, spell dog, God backwards is dog. Oh boy. Oh, okay, dog. Yeah, okay. Sorry, Mary. Right. Right. Yeah. We're a three-part: body, soul, and mind. Yeah. Spirit and yes, body, soul, and spirit. Hey, I'm not feeling well. Give me a break. Huh? Yeah. It could be because Jesus became the flesh and we were in the flesh. God is spirit and the soul is what holds the two together, and that's the Holy Spirit, you know. Yeah. Right. Could be. Right. Well, we're not inseparable because we can live outside our body. And we are. Huh? I don't understand the last part. Right. Right. But if our three-part being is a spirit, soul, and body, we are inseparable. That's where the image breaks down, or the parallel, because I can live outside of my body. Yeah. We'll have a spiritual body, though. That's right. But right now, they don't have a body, and I'll have to show you that. They're living outside a body. They're disembodied spirits.
I like the fact that in God's word, he explains everything about himself, his eyes,
Yeah.
he explains his ears,
Right.
the mouth, the feet,
Right.
his hand.
Right.
He explains it all, but it's from a spiritual sense.
Well, he's personifying his spirit because that's the only thing we can relate to is eyes, hands, and mouth. Right.
Right, and so when he says, let us create man
Right.
in his own in our own image, he's given us that he's
Right.
we have
Right.
a physical body, but that physical body cannot be present in the eternal body.
That's right. So it's a lot to swallow and think about, but think about it. Ecclesiastes, the Solomon writes this: the dust will return to the earth as it was. This is upon death, and the spirit will return to God. So death is a separation. Like, what's the death of a marriage? It's a separation. You were one flesh, and now the covenant's been broken. You've separated. It's not by the will of God, but it's a death, separation. All right? That's what the idea is here. And so we look at it. It's also described as a departure. And so the separation scares me because I like my body, but as we get older, we don't, right? So that's a good thing. I think God planned it that way so you won't get too attached to it permanently. But it's also described as a departure. And so we all know this verse, but it's the departure when we actually, our spirit leaves, that's the separation. But where does it go? We leave the real us and we get to be with our Lord. That's the departure. Because I can't be with the Lord in this body. I have to leave this body to go be with the Lord. And so, what did the thief ask of Jesus on the cross? Last minute confession. Remember me. And Jesus' promise was, truly, I say to you, truly means what? This is going to happen. When's it going to happen? Today. You, who's that? Now his body stayed where? Yeah, it's still on the earth, but he dies before, I don't know, after they broke his legs and suffocated. You're going to be with, who's the me? Jesus in paradise. Now either Jesus lied, but we know that's not the case because he said truly. That means this thief, his body's on the earth, but the real thief, the spirit, is with Jesus. And where are they found? In paradise, the spiritual being. Now, either paradise is in a waiting place, and we'll talk about that in a second, or it's actually in heaven. Because where did Jesus go when he died? Yes. And he said, you're going to be with me. And that's why it's so exciting. It's like a roller coaster ride you've never been on. But when you get off, you're with Jesus. Like, wow, why didn't I take this ride earlier? Because it's scary. But when you get off, you're with Jesus. Now, how do we know that's true? Because I always thought, how many times we've been taught that there's a waiting place for you when you die? How many have heard that? All right, thank you. It used to be that way. And we'll have a whole lesson on this, Lord willing, later. But remember, Jesus talked about the rich man and the poor man. They both died. He says the poor man died and was carried away by angels. That's an exciting thought. Because I don't know how to get to paradise, but the angels will take me there. And the rich man died. He just finds himself. The angels, there's no escorting. All right? That's exciting. But anyway, he found himself where? They took him to Abram's bosom. That's be this top half. And the rich man died, and he was buried in Hades. He was lifted up by being in torment, and he saw Abraham far away in Abraham's bosom. Or Lazarus, saw him there. Yeah. Of course, he wanted a dip of water. Said, can't. No one can cross between the two and fro, back and forth.
Jack,
Yes.
if will you still be afraid of heights after?
We're laughing because it's a great question, but it's still funny. All right.
I'm scared of heights.
Hey, we're living, I know, we're living in a physical world with dimensions, out, that, and up and down. In the spiritual realm, there's not any concept of those dimensions. So you won't be afraid of heights. All right. It's a great question, though. Now, why is Abraham in this place? There's only one answer I'll accept. Why is he not in heaven with God? There's only one answer.
Because he died under the old law, and that's what the old law sent them to Abraham's bosom.
Well, that's close, but why does the old law send people into this waiting place? Oh, I heard like 5 answers, but
Because Jesus has to die on the cross first
yeah, why?
to cleanse their sins.
Because he's still a what? A sinner. Sinners can't be in heaven. But he's in this place of comfort because God's saying, hands off, Satan, because Jesus is going down there to rescue them at the cross. Because there's still not been any forgiveness of sins for his blood, right? So they're kept safe by God, but they're still guilty of sin. So Jesus, you know where he went at the cross? Hades. It says that. Why did he go to Hades? To rescue all those faithful saints. And Rahab the harlot's one of them, right? And now that the blood of the Christ forgives them, where are they free to go? And so before the cross, you see people waiting. After the cross, you see them before the throne of God. Every text after Jesus rose from the dead that speaks about someone dying, you always see them in heaven. What changed? The cross, the blood of Christ. And we'll talk about that, Lord willing, later in some detail, but it's a beautiful thought. There's no waiting place. Now, that place of torment, they're waiting to be condemned to hell for eternity, right? But do they know where they're going? Yeah, they know where they're going. Yeah, the rich man, he even wanted Lazarus to go warn his brothers, you don't want to come here. Said, no, they got the law and the prophets. Let them listen to that.
That's the conscious part that you're speaking about.
Oh, thank you. Who asked about consciousness? I mean, forgot. Yeah, they're conscious because remember, rich man, I'm in torment. I just want to drop of water. So yeah, he's conscious even if he doesn't know he doesn't have a body. Good point. Thanks for reminding me.
I like that story for more than one reason, but it is amazing to see that this rich man is no name given.
Yeah,
He's a rich man.
right.
And both died. As you point out, the angels took Lazarus to the paradise, and he died just he woke up in this place of torment. Like,
Right.
here I am.
he could order Lazarus around? Yeah.
And he gave an order to Abraham, said,
Yeah.
"Hey, tell this guy Lazarus that I see him to give me water."
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
That's the way it used to be on the earth. You gave orders, but not here.
And you
Right.
can't even think where you are
Yeah.
at that moment.
Good point.
Explains him being,
That's a really good point.
that's a good point that he was a rich man.
Yeah. And
He's used to asking.
he's used to telling too. And the other thing is, we don't know his name, but we do know Lazarus' name. The person that everyone, he was the lowest of life. No one gave him a time to, God said, I'll remember you by your name. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah.
And not only that, the rich man was heartless because wasn't Lazarus
At his doorstep, walked over him every day.
right?
Yeah.
Something about the dogs, like that.
Yeah. Exactly. So when we look at this, Revelation chapter 6, we've been studying that. Remember the people that die out of the great persecution? When the Lamb broke the fifth seal, I saw underneath the altar, that'd be the throne of God, the souls of those who had been slain. Slain where? On the earth. Because of the word of God and their testimony in which they had maintained. So in other words, they were threatened by Paul, deny Christ or you'll die. And it's no. They said, kill me. And so their bodies returned to the dust, and now their souls are where? Right before the throne of God. And they're crying, Lord, how long before you avenge our death? You referred to it in your lesson. So they're conscious and they're crying and they're waiting for justice. But they're in heaven. So let's look at a couple more and then we'll take some questions. Here's Paul. What did he say? As long as we are home in this earthly tabernacle, he says in verse 1, he calls it a tent. Our body's like a tent, a tabernacle. We're absent from the Lord. And he says, therefore, being of good courage, because it's scary, the idea of dying, knowing that while we're home in the body, we're absent from the Lord, we walk by faith, not by sight. We're of good courage, and we prefer rather to be absent from the body so we can be at home with the Lord. Now, how do you get absent from the body? When we die. That's what it means. You're absent when you die. So he's saying, let me go back to it, we prefer to die so we can leave the body separation and be delivered. It's to heaven to be with the Lord. It's a preference. When you understand really what's happening, that's what you're going to want. Yes.
Paul struggled with that too, and then he was taken up so he could see.
Yeah.
And then that gave him this testimony as well that he could share with us so that we can have that same.
Exactly. So let me just say this since we're here. All of us in this room are still home in the body, aren't we?
Yes.
It's, man, I just want to live a lot longer. I get that. I want to see things still happen with my kids and grandkids. But we're absent from who? Because we walk by faith inside. We understand really what's happening spiritually, even though we haven't seen it, because he's promised and told us what it was. So really, we prefer, can I say that, to be absent from the body? As we grow in our faith and our body starts to fall apart, we prefer it more and more, don't we? Lord, come quickly. I just want to go home. Yes.
Talked about some of them being asleep.
Yeah.
Sleep in the Lord.
That means dead as Christians because of they died as Christians. No, sometimes death is called sleep because you're going to be resurrected, come out of that sleep, but it's actual death. Yeah. Yes.
As you get older, you start to look, as you said, with the body. You don't like it too much anymore. What happens, the transition as we get older. And what I keep remembering is what Jesus told Paul. My grace is sufficient.
That's right. He'll give
And
us
I have
power.
to be there because I don't like what I see.
When Paul's going to say this too. Yes, Eileen.
Go back one. Back.
Yeah, you're saying they're in heaven in Abraham's bosom.
No. Yeah. Well, Abraham's in heaven too now because of the blood of Christ. He's taken up there as well.
But when we die, we don't go to heaven.
Yes.
We go, I thought we went under the throne or.
Well, it's all the same because where's the throne of God? It's in heaven, the heavenlies. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
No, there's only one realm. It's It's heaven or hell.
Okay, because the Mormons say bam, bam.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Everything you learn about the Mormons, just take some Windex, wash it.
But there's no levels in heaven?
No, there might be rewards in heaven, but not levels. Now, what makes heaven glorified yet to come is these are disembodied spirits. Because he says, just rest a little while in this text, and says he gave them white robes of righteousness to wear. But we know that Jesus, when he comes, he'll bring these spirits, it says that in 1 Thessalonians 4, with him, and their bodies will be raised. They'll be raised from the ground, the dust, into spiritual bodies, and they'll be reunited with a spiritual body, and they'll be with the Lord forever. And we who are alive will be changed in a twinkling of an eye into a spiritual body. So you can't, as I understand it, enjoy heaven to its fullest until you have your new glorified spiritual body. It'll work perfectly. Yes.
Tell me if I'm confused.
No.
Somewhere along the line, I've heard here that when you die, you're going here and then you go there.
Right. It used to be that way before the cross. Now you go right to. That's what I'm saying right here. Look what Paul says.
So you must have been teaching something before the cross, and that's stuck in my head.
Yeah. Before the cross, you waited. After the cross, Paul says, we'd rather be absent from the body and be home with the Lord. So is the Lord in this waiting place himself? No, he's on the throne.
So that was those other people you were doing.
Yes, it's before the cross. I'm glad you clarified that. After the cross, everything's dramatically changed. So look at this verse right here. Paul said this, for me to die, for me to live is Christ. That's to do Christ's work. But to die that's profitable for me. I'm hard pressed from both directions, having the desire to depart. See, death is a departure, and be with who? See, he everything referenced after the cross, and I'm glad you asked. After the cross, every reference to someone dying puts them with Jesus in heaven. Before, it puts them in this waiting place. Because everything changed at the cross. Because that's much better. But yet to remain on the flesh is necessary for your sake. What word is paralleled with depart right there? Oh, that's it, right here, die. To die is gain, because I have the desire, that means lust, to depart, die, so I can be with. He said, I want to die. That's what he's saying. Because death is not the end of my life. It's a departure so I can finally be with the Lord and live life the way it's supposed to be. Yes.
I get all of that, but then when you get past that place where I get confused is where we rise from the, it talks about coming back and our
Yeah.
and then going up, because we're already there.
Yeah.
And he's gonna come back for us, and we're gonna go again. I mean, what I'm saying?
Good question.
We're waiting somewhere
All right.
for it to come back.
All right. I'll save that for our next lesson because we don't have time. But rehearse. When you die, all the message, you're going to be with who? Where's your body? Dust. But to answer your question quickly, he's coming back with our spirits. We never come to the earth. We just are in the air because it says that. He'll raise our physical bodies into a spiritual ones, and we'll be united with his spiritual body, and then we'll be with the Lord forever. So I guess it's down and back up if that's what you're asking. But we'll flesh that out later.
It's like coming back to get the body.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, Mary.
He uses words like waiting and those kind of words, so we can understand that
Right,
we ought to be in the realm of time.
right.
No time,
No time. Right,
counting of time, really no waiting or anything else.
right.
Just
Yeah, that language is used for our benefit because they don't, right, I would agree. So, this is the most exciting day of our life coming, the day we die. Because you get to be right in the presence of the Lord.
you still get to see your grandkids from.
Anyone that's died is safe, like children that were never sinners, I have a brother and sister I've never met, and I'll get to meet them.
I have a husband up in there somewhere.
You get to see your husband. You know, it's going to be the most glorious, exciting day. And angels, you say, well, how do I get there? Angels will escort you if we understand it correctly. But for you to get there, your body has to go through this terrible thing called death, where you stop breathing, your heart stops beating, your brain stops, dies. But your spirit is finally, you are finally released, and you get to go home.
Sometimes it's kind of peaceful. I mean, even,
Should be.
you know, your family members are upset, but
Yeah.
the actual individual that's
Yeah.
dying
Yeah.
dies really peaceful. My husband did.
No, and you would pray that you'd have a peaceful death, and that's often asked. Did they go peacefully? Yes. Well, thank the Lord, because you can suffer when you're dying. It's terrible. I understand that. Yes.
I appreciate Roberta's comments because when you looked at Paul, he was always concerned for the brethren in the church and how they fared and how they were doing.
Yeah.
He would give his very life for them and suffer the loss of
Yes.
his own salvation that they might live. And I remember Ron, before he passed and prior to that, his concern was always about the church here in Dallas. And then he got to the point where he says, now I know I can truly go home because
Right.
the church will survive.
Nicely. So the ultimate hope, though, I just want to leave this, is not just departure.